Hi, Peter Charles here, Folks for Life Fly Fishing. And I thought it'd be a good idea if we talked about fly boxes. Now, when we first start out in fly fishing, we probably don't have a good idea what we should be buying. We follow other people's suggestions. Maybe the store owner said, buy this one. Sometimes the suggestions we get from other people are quite good, and sometimes, well, we're just buying whatever's the cheapest. So I thought we'd spend some time looking at fly boxes and what are some of the issues, and also what we should have on the water. So let's start first with the fact that we want to have fly boxes that fit the flies we're going to use. So this is a box full of very small flies, and this box is very flat. As you can see, there's very little thickness to it. So obviously, if we had a fly with thickness, it won't fit in this box. This box would squish it. But if we're using very flat flies like these nymphs, and then, this box is great. And being so small, it fits in our pocket. So really skinny boxes like this are quite good for nymphs. When we get into dry flies, they're bushy, they stick up. So we need some room. So you can see in this particular box, there are gaps between the flies. And those gaps are basically like squared off U's, and it gives a place for the hackle to sit. So the hackle doesn't get all scrunched up. If you put these flies, these dry flies, in a flat bottom box, you'd crush the bottom of the hackles and it reduce the effectiveness of the fly. So a box like this, which is quite thick, and actually has two sides, and has room for dry flies on both sides, then you have room to put your dry flies, and when you close the lid, it doesn't crush the fly. So when you put it in the fly box, it doesn't crush the hackle, and when you close the lid, it doesn't crush the hackle. Now you'll notice it's clear. Now this is a personal thing for me. I like fly boxes with clear lids, so I can see what's in them. Because if you have enough fly boxes, you start to lose track of what you've got. And so I can say, oh, this is my sulfur box, I'll take this with me. It's got all my early season, I got my Hendricksons, I'll take this with me. So it gives me the opportunity to sort through what I have, very quickly make a decision of which fly box to take. Now, there's also big fly boxes like this too. You can see there's tons of flies in here. Sometimes I carry these on the water, but they're big, and here's the nymph version. When you're putting boxes like this in our vests, they take up a lot of room. And we start looking like the Michelin tire man after a while because we've got so many fly boxes stuffed in our pockets. You can use fly boxes like this as storage. So I would keep this in my gear bag, for example, and when I get to the river, I might pull a few of these out to use, and then put whatever's left back in when I'm done. Which brings me to the next point. Here it is. This is kind of a generic bit of everything box, and it's a good idea to have like a working fly box. This is the one we're going to carry on the river. It's going to carry the patterns we expect to use, because I wouldn't bother putting tricos in a box when I'm going fishing in May, because tricos we normally see later on in the season. So you're going to put in species of flies that you're likely to see early in the season. So you carry this working fly box, and it's got little streamers in here. I've got dry flies, both caddis and mayfly, and I've got some nymphs, both caddis and mayfly nymphs in here as well. So this is the box I used to take on the water when I was teaching people or guiding people. So I just take this box, and what was in here usually did the job for people. And I take the same approach with nymphs. I've got one box that I take on for all my nymphs, for example. So with these two boxes loaded with the right flies, that's all I need to put in my vest. I need to put anything else. Now, of course, mayfly nymphs and caddis nymphs aren't the only things we're going to be using. This is a streamer box. Again, clear lid. And the difference here is the spots for the flies are widely spaced. So you can put big flies. This is a big fly box, and there's lots of room in here to put quite a few streamers, as you can see. And it's high enough that the streamers don't get crushed. And now these have got lots of hair on them, so when you close the lid, they sometimes trap some of the hair. So just blow. There, now you can close it and there's nothing trapped. Now you can have really big flies, like my bass flies. So this is a very deep box, as you can see. It's a foam lined, and I like these foam boxes for streamers and big bass flies like this. I mean, there's a lot of fur and hair on these flies, and I don't want them crushed. I don't want to put them in a box that's going to squish them. And again, just blow to get the hair out of the way. That's a fairly big box, but typically when I'm bass fishing, I'm not carrying not using a vest. I've got a sling pack, so this in a sling pack is no problem at all. So you need a fairly bulky box for bass flies or other large flies. Now we get into traditional boxes like this metal box. Very expensive. As you can see, I've got my steelhead, traditional steelhead flies in here. This is something you would use if you really want to get into the traditional way of doing things. You just want to have it because it's a lovely looking box. But the reality is, you know, these kinds of boxes, the plastic boxes with the foam liners that you can slide your flies into and got room not to crush anything, these are the way to go. I mean, to spend this kind of money on this kind of box is really not necessary when you're getting started, and they're not actually the best type of box to take on the river. You know, one of these plastic boxes will probably do a better job for you. So when you're going to go out to buy a plastic box, the things I'm going to suggest, it should be designed for the size of fly you're going to be using. So if you're going to be putting small dries and wets in there, you're going to have a box where the rows are closely spaced together. If it's for your streamers, the rows are going to be spaced further apart to allow room for the bigger flies. When you're using a fly box for dries, it has to have room in it so the hackles can go below the hook and not get crushed, and when you close the lid it doesn't crush the wings. So it's got to have some thickness like this. You want clear tops. Not mandatory, but very handy. I've gone to a lot of clear tops. And the last idea is to have the concept of having one or two working fly boxes. These are the ones we actually put on our vest. I've known people, you have all these boxes here, I've known people to try and stuff that many boxes into their vest, walking like this, and you'll never use them all. I mean, you use 3 flies when you're on the river, and you've gone out looking like this. It gets ridiculous. So think about what you're going to be using and just take that. You don't need to take anything else. So have yourself a working fly box, and my working fly box for my nymphs, and this one here, and these 2 boxes. This is it. I said, oh, I need to take on the water with me, and I can put these in shirt pockets, for that matter, and you know, and then, you know, I don't have to burden myself with a load of stuff. So get the right fly box for the size of fly and the type of fly, and don't carry a bazillion fly boxes on the river because you'll never use the flies that are in them. So that's all about fly boxes. Cheers.